It's going to be a good teaching today.
I'm excited.
You know why? Because of all the opposition. you always know when it starts that way. He trying to stop something. Okay.
The only one that we do twice is the senior machine.
Okay, so we need this one there, and
Are we ready?
this one.
Yeah, we don't. We
Let's start with the song. Ready?
Okay. So,
Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Hey, Sadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tav, Hey, Sadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tav. Okay, one more time. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Sadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tav, Pei, Sadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tav. Awesome. Okay, we're going into lesson 5. Did anybody, I should do this each time, but did anybody have any questions on lesson 4 from last week? If not, we will go ahead and
Do have a question.
absolutely.
On page 31.
Of the okay, you'll have to show it to me.
This Shaba?
Yes, so it'd be the SH and then the A, right? AH, and then the bet,
Okay.
ma, and then this comes together as one syllable, so bat, Shabbat. Yep.
Okay.
Because see how you have the 2 vowels?
Yes.
That means you're going to have 2 syllables, even though you got 3 letters. So this is Shabbat.
Gotcha.
Shabbat.
Can you explain that?
Thank you.
That's the same question I had.
Did you? Okay. Shabbat, what vowels did it have under it? That's okay. So you got the patak or the kamats? We could even just do this.
It's the okay, but one was on the was the line,
Right.
and then the next one was the T sound.
Okay. So this is what they call the patak, and this is the kamats. Okay, they both make the AH, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so with this, hopefully I'm answering you guys' question, but to pronounce this, the easiest way to do these is just transliterate them. So SH, and then AH, and then the B, and then AH, and then the T.
Now, what did
So-
you call those vowels? The underline or below, or what did you say?
This is the patak. You should have a vowel chart that I gave you at the beginning of all this.
Oh, okay, I will look at it.
Yes. It'll really come in handy because it'll show you how to pronounce the name of the vowel.
Yes.
It's not highly important, but if you want to keep up with this, just kind of learn as you go. Try to memorize them. Patak and kamats, you're going to get that in your mind, patak, kamats. So patak's always going to be straight. Kamats, think about making another straight, but it's got the, yep.
would know.
Yeah, so patak, kamats.
Thank you.
The first example though doesn't have a vowel mark underneath it.
Okay?
I understand why the second one works. See, that has the vowel, so that's shabbat. This one has nothing. So how do you?
Yeah, so in other words, what it's probably trying to do is show you that, actually on the signs, like in Israel, you won't even have vowels. You'll actually be able to read this Hebrew once you get more advanced without them, because you're going to know the sounds.
Okay.
So if you ever go to Israel, you'll see the signs, and there's no vowels. They don't put vowels on them. They just know the language enough to where you can read them. So that's all it's showing you there. It's the same thing basically as what it's telling you. One's got vowels under it to help you at this stage, right? Which I still need it. But as you get going along, you'll be able to memorize them. But that's transliterate that way. It makes it easy. But if you were just to look at this, you can see the two syllables. So sha, bat. You bring these two together, and this one by itself. Shabbat, Shabbat. Okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you guys got any questions about the one last week, each time just ask, because we will go back, because I don't want you to have something that's unfinished where you're wondering what it was. So here's our two. Oh, you didn't get it? Here. Do you want the big packet too? No, I hope I don't shoot this in the foot again. Make sure I don't. Okay. There you go, Carol. So we have two new letters. We've got the Lamed, which makes the L sound. Always remember, whatever the pronunciation of the word is, Lamed, la, 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 it's always going to be the first letter, is the sound it makes. So Lamed makes L, the L sound, right? Mem makes the M sound. If you look, you'll see it here. Here's your Lamed. Lamed, it means shepherd's staff. It's the only letter that goes above the line, which there's a reason for it. It's got a numerical value of 30. Our next letter is Mem. Mem means water. Mem can also mean oil or anointing. This is why the Mem is used in Mashiach, because it can mean the anointing. Mashiach means to pour oil upon. So you can see this Mashiach. Okay. Mem, a lot of the letters have a double meaning to them. That's why, because we ate from the tree of good and evil, right? So there's the two sides to the coin, right? So Mem, remember when Yeshua was in the boat and with the apostles and got all chaotic, the waves were, right? Okay. Mem can also mean chaos. Those are two of the meanings you will see come out very significant when you go into the Torah and try to decipher words. You'll see sometimes it can mean chaos. Mem has a numerical value of 40, which is really significant because it means completion, the time of completion. I'll show you something really neat, because these two letters, along with another one, set right in the middle. Oh, come on. Got to find out which window does that. Okay, let me... If you look, see your Lamed? This is how it used to look on the ancient scrolls, right? Okay, you've got Kaf Lamed Mem sitting in the middle of the Aleph Bet. Okay? So you could see the Lamed. The Lamed's written. I'll try to do my best at getting this. And it goes down basically like this. Okay? Lamed has a numerical value of 30. We know that Yud, Hey, the sacred name of God, Vav, Hey. Yud is 10. The two Heys are 5, so there's 10, there's 20, and then Vav is 6. So it equals 26, the Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey does. Okay? You're going to see this come out in these two letters. And we've got Kaf, Lamed, Mem sitting in the middle of the Aleph Bet. Okay? Now if you look here, there's a Kaf. This is what they call component letters that make up letters. You can see the depth of the Hebrew, which is awesome. So within certain letters, there's component letters that make up the letter. So if you were to decipher this, this is a Kaf. Kaf has a numerical value of 20, and this is a Vav. You can see it right here, really, in the ancient scrolls. See the Vav or the Lamed up here?
Okay.
Do you see the Vav up here, and then you see the Kaf right here? So Kaf has a numerical value of 20. Vav has a numerical value of 6. So now we've got a relationship here. The reason why is because Lamed is shepherd's staff. Lamed signifies Mashiach, the Messiah. He's our shepherd. This is why there's a connection here. Mem also signifies the shepherd, also signifies Yeshua. And if you look here, here's the Mem. See the Vav? There's a Vav there, and there's the Kaf. So we have a Vav here and a Kaf. Kaf is 20. Vav is 6. It also equals 26. These are the component letters. It's really cool because you see this stuff. But look at your three middle ones. Just transpose them and flip them around. It spells Melech, king.
Say that again.
If you transpose these, flip them around. In other words, you go Mem, Lamed, Kaf. It spells king. Now, that sits in the middle of the Aleph Bet, with the only letter that sticks above the line sitting there making this whole thing obvious. That there he is. I mean, he is the king. It's really cool too, because if you take the beginning, middle, and end on the Aleph Bet, beginning is Aleph, right?
Correct.
Approximately in the middle is Mem. Last is Tav. That actually spells truth. Now, where it says in the New Testament, Yeshua is the truth, right? So you see all the way the Hebrew works within the lettering. You see the component letters within it. These are all the pointers to show you how alive this language is and how beautiful it is. So let's go. So Mem makes the M sound. And the Lamed makes the L sound. Memorize the numerics in these two because it's going to be real important. Mem 40, completion. Okay? Moses, right? Spent 40 days, 40 nights, Mount Sinai. You can kind of compare that to it. Lamed, shepherd, 30. Here's our Messiah. It's 3, right? The Father, Son, Holy Spirit times 10. So, because those will come up a lot. Those are the easy ones to memorize. So let's go. Start at the top. We're just going to say the name of the letter, and then if we get to the vowels, you can say the vowels until we get obviously into the sounds. So let's start here. So this is bet.
God, she, see, Mem,
Beautiful. Okay, let's go to the next one. Saw. May. Ta. Awesome. Beautiful. Let's get this up a little bit higher so everybody can see it. Let me see if I can zoom into this too without losing it. Yeah, that's better, huh? Now remember, if it's got the 2 vowels, it's going to make it's 2 syllables, right?
Yes.
So we go. Beautiful. Shaba. Dava. So ba, ra, la, ma, sha. Okay? Don't want to lose that connection again.
No.
Bar. Shar. Sar. Mar. Tamar, right? Take it a piece at a time. Tamar. Tamar. Awesome. So what's this vowel? What's it called? What's the name of it? Remember, this is patak, kamatz.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Patak, kamatz.
Yes.
Okay. Line 5. Shesh. Shesh, isn't that amazing? 6. 6 is shesh. How do you say 6 in Spanish? Seis. Oh, I wonder where it all came from, right? It goes back to the Hebrew. Shave. Shate. Yes. Latate.
Now say that again.
So you go la, tate. Yep. Latate. Okay. Yep. Sha, rate. Sharate. Beautiful. Okay. Daughter is bat. What? Religion? Dot. Shot. So ra, bat, rabat, Shabbat. Okay, line 7. Rav. Yep, Rav. Bad. Shav. Sas. Glad means Sas, right?
Rice.
Resh. Letter right, Resh.
Rice.
Okay. Line 8. Yes. Daver. Shavar. Yes. Guarded is ah. Ah sounds right. Shamar. Shamar. Shamash. Shamash is the center candle on the menorah because it's the attendant or servant. The sun, S-U-N, in the sky, that's at the center of our universe, is just like the sun's at the center of the universe, so is the Shamash candle at the center of the menorah. So you can see these things. You'll see it all through. The concept is laid out perfectly. So Shamash. It's kind of cool too. You really want to go deep into it. The sun is, I think it's made of hydrogen and oxygen, isn't it? It's 2 parts one and 1 part another. And you could actually see it here. You can see the fire of the hydrogen and then the mem. There's rabbis that teach on this because you actually take the Hebrew letters and it shows things. It's like mem. Ma'im is mem, yud, mem, ma'im. So water is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, right? And it shows up within the word. It actually shows up that way. But yeah, they teach on some of this. It just is so amazing. But go to line 9. Lavash. Levav. Levav. So just take a piece at a time, right? Ba, le, vav. Ba, le, vav. Ba, it means house, right? But it means in also. That's where your in is. So this is heart, and then this is in the heart. You see how the bet can be a prefix and can mean in sometimes, right?
Yes.
Lamad. Lamad. Okay. Line 10.
I'm not getting that. Look, do that.
You want to go back to this one?
Yes.
Okay. That's okay. We can do it. La. Mad. Because that's a dalet. So mad. Mad. Lamad.
Which is like the shepherd, that's what the Lamed. Oh, that's different.
Yeah, Lamed. Yes. Yeah, because studied comes from teacher. Teacher also is the Lamed. That's Lamad. It's just a different vowel pronunciation. But it can be shepherd or teacher. Shepherd staff is, right, if you got a staff, it probes and teaches the flock to follow, right? So it's like a teaching tool. So you can see all the connections with it. Okay. Proverb, mashal. Mashal.
Because that is just an L on the end.
Yep. That's just one.
Memshal.
Ma-shal. Ma-shal. Ba-rod. 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 There you go. Darash. Darash. Speak is Daber. Daber. Daber.
Isn't hard also lead?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Nobody.
It's lev. You got to understand Hebrew, there's layers to it. So it can be, this is emphasizing it actually with the two houses on it, because it's the leader of the house and then they're repeating house. You know, in the New Testament he says, surely I tell you. That happens too in the Old Testament, but in two separate words, it'll actually be the same word in Hebrew. The very middle, I'll really get you guys going now. There's doubles in the Torah, believe it or not. The very middle double is darash, darosh. Different vowels, same letters. Darash, darosh. It means to inquire insistently, if it was interpreted. But actually in the Hebrew it says inquire, inquire. Darash, darosh. Okay? So anytime you see something like that repeated, there's an emphasis to it. We're not going to get into the depth of all that because we're going to be on way too many rabbit trails, but that's what you're looking at. It's really neat because heart is the first letter in the Torah and the last letter in the Torah. Spell heart. Because Bereshit, there's your first letter, and the last three words in the Torah last two words are all Israel. So the L at the end. It's really cool because put those together, because we know he works in threes. You got Bereshit, Kal Israel. In the beginning was all Israel. All those souls were there. Okay? That's how we know he's going to bring them all in. They're coming back. That's why everybody's being called right now. Some of us are just little, really need to be like me. That's the only way he got me in is actually coming to me and taking me through those visions, because I'm too big of a skeptic. I'm that doubting Thomas. But that's what's happening right now, is all Israel is being gone after. That's why I truly believe there's different groups all over the world that are doing what we're doing, because he's opened eyes. He went in, like he said in Joel, he says, I'm going to pour out my spirit in the end upon the maidservant, the slave. Yes, I know it kind of ties to Pentecost, or Shavuot, when the Holy Spirit came down. But in the Western mind, thought they tie it to it and that's it. Okay? That was just a piece, because none of them were slaves, were they? Or maidservants. So who's he talking about? He's talking about us in the end. Because he says in the end. We're in the end. So there's a lot of different people around. I know there is, because I can see it. I can see what he's doing, his plan that he's doing. But he's picked certain people that he can bring this through in order for everybody else to hear it. That's why I think there's small groups around. Because this isn't religion here. This is a belief. You believe in your Creator, and you're making a choice. You're making a choice to follow that path. And that's the beauty in this. It's something that you're not getting within the norm, within the churches and so forth. But, okay. Let's go to, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the lesson, so. There's an acronym that's really awesome that is taught on Lamed, and you can see it here. It's on your one sheet. The acronym is the heart that understands knowledge. Remember I showed you guys this before, but we've seen religion. Is dot. Religion is dot, but knowledge is da'at. It's got the ayin in the middle. The ayin means understanding, right? So you can see the difference. Religion is the doorway to the covenant. It's the beginning. It'll get you there, okay? But how deep do you want to go? That's what knowledge is. Because do you want to gain this understanding? Remember we've seen the word for angel, guardian angel, Zaire. So it's Ayin, Yud, Resh. So it's Zaire. So it's an understanding leader with the hand of God. So that's the importance of this. That understanding, that knowledge of God. And that's where you get this showing up so much. So we got a doorway to the covenant with this understanding. Understanding too references the Holy Spirit. But that's really cool. I thought that was cool. The heart that understands knowledge, which is the shepherd. That's what Yeshua is. But do go through these. I don't go through these all this every time because I want you guys to do it. I want you to be able to see it. There's usually a verse in here that I put in that's going to reference that Lamed. If Lamed shows up also, if it shows up as a prefix, we've seen the bet show up as a prefix, which means in, because you go into a house. If Lamed shows up as a prefix, it means to. Okay? Because you take as a shepherd, you take the flock from one place to another. So it means to. T-O. It can mean, it says here also, means towards or belong to. And then we've got Mem also. You can really see with the Mem how it changed. Remember this graph that I showed you here? This is the Paleo back during the Canaanite time period. And as you come through Moses, you can see the way the Mem looked. Looks like water, right? But you could see it right after Daniel, it matures. It goes into basically what we're dealing with today, that block lettering. But you can see it, and the reason why, it's like I've always explained, Yeshua come from the bloodline of Judah. Judah is the one who went into Babylon. The southern tribes did, because the northern tribes are already dispersed. So when this matured, you're going to hear all kinds of stuff. If you go to research this, like I said before, there's some people rabbis do a really good, Messianic rabbis that do a real good teaching on, but then they come out and criticize, well, the new stuff isn't, the block lettering isn't the original, and we should learn the original, all this. That's not it. You got to understand, this is Yeshua. It's alive. It matures through tribulation, just like we do. Judah's biggest tribulation was Babylon right there. When they went off into Babylon, and you can see they matured after this. This language started to mature into what it is today. So always look at everything and have an open mind. It's like when I talk about the Hebrew calendar, also called the creation calendar, right? You'll hear people say, well, it's not accurate, it hasn't changed, After you take this course, you're going to realize they don't know what they're talking about. It is absolutely perfect, because if it wasn't perfect, the Fibonacci sequence on the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th place wouldn't add up to 5778. Plus the surface temperature of the sun wouldn't be 5778 Kelvin. There's reasons for this. It's all perfect. And also the Gregorian calendar. They all work together. The Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar. because the Gregorian calendar, it's neat because 0 AD is 3760. The reason for that, we know the Gregorian calendar points to the Messiah, right? So Shalom, he's the Prince of Peace, has a numerical value of 376. So if you times that by 10, you get 3760, which is 0 AD. So you could see the calendars match. They're perfect. Everything he did is perfect. Get past the throwing everything out because, okay, I'm messianic or I'm this or I'm that. So we're going to toss everything out the door. Look at it all because you're going to see his hand within all of it. You'll see it within the New Testament, within the Old Testament. You'll see it in the verses in the New Testament, the verses in the Old Testament. Mem is also used as a prefix. So bet is in, okay, like in the beginning, bereshit, right? There's your bet. We just went over lamed means to, because you lead the flock to the field. Okay, mem is water. So water always comes from a source. It either comes from the sky, from the mountains, and runs down. It always comes from a source. So that's the way to think about it. If it's used as a prefix, it means from. Okay? Bet, in, go in a house. Lamed, to. You lead the flock to the field with the staff. Mem, water comes from a source, from.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
I got highlighted here, and I was going to bring it up because it has to do with that doorway, the 5778. The word on the very bottom where you wrote in Genesis 1:2.
On the mem sheet or lamed?
The mem sheet on the very bottom,
Okay?
where you see upon the ayin and lamed. I've got written, it appears 5,778 times in the Tanakh.
Oh, the ayin lamed does?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to verify it, but yeah, that's interesting that it does. That's a neat thing about it is you can go into, there's certain software that you can go into online, and along with you can go into Bible Hub and see how many times these words appear. Now you'll see how they appear in the root form, and then you can see how they appear just in that form that they're talking about. That's the neat thing about Bible Hub. So if you don't use it, you got to use it because it's the coolest thing. You can get an app that goes downloads on your phone, and then you can research. I use it a lot too, not only in the Hebrew but in the Greek, because I truly want to see what it says in the Greek. You know, there's certain things where you're like, does it really say that? Because there's so many translations and so forth. But if you can go to the Greek, and you can pick up a word, the best way to research is see how many times it appears and see where it appears. Compare things. Does it make sense in every, is it making sense? Is it, because it could mean something in one verse, and it's like this in Hebrew means guardian angel in the book of Daniel. But you come to Genesis, and that same word means city. Which is weird because you go to Bible Hub and research through the book of Daniel, and this will say it only appears 3 times in the whole Hebrew Scriptures. But that's funny because you go to Genesis, that same word appears.
Is it pointed different?
What's that?
Is it pointed different?
It has to do with what he puts over the top of the cities. There's something over the top of the cities that is a guardian. Because he puts them over the top of countries, he puts them over cities, he puts them over your body, he puts them over all that's right. So knowing that, I'll really kind of give you, drop another crumb, the word donkey. You're going to see us go into that too. because we're going to go next after we come out of this timeline, we're going to go into Babylon. Because you guys got to see Babylon. You got to see Revelations 18. And because it's already happened. It's happening. Okay? It's already started. And you guys have seen it through the teaching yesterday. But anyways, remember what it says Yeshua in Isaiah, it says he will ride on a donkey. And then it says a foal or a calf. And then it says of a she-donkey. It's got 3 words there. Okay? Donkey is Het, Mem, Vav, Resh. So it's Chamor. Okay? You know the one he rides on, the calf? It's that word right there.
56.
So you see the spiritual deepness of this, and I'm not going to teach on this yet, because he's still teaching me on it. He brought this up about a week or so back, and but you can see the spiritual deepness. What was he riding on? It's like I told you, that Dome of the Rock did something there when it went up. It shut down sacrifice, just like daily offering, just like it said it did. But we can't think strictly in the physical. We got to think what's happening above too. You know, because it's like he said with Peter, whatever you turn loose down here, you turn loose up there. Whatever you bind down here, you're going to bind up there. So we influence the spiritual. This is why Satan will make his appearance, this Antichrist will make his appearance after the apostasy. Why? Because you're feeding him. He's feeding off of this evil. So what's happening here on earth is feeding his and giving him power to rule. That's why he's got to come after the apostasy. He's got to come after the falling away. The influence in both realms, in the Hebrew, you got to look at both. See what's happening in both at the same time. That's what we see here when Yeshua rides.
How do you say that?
It'll be different vowels on different deals, but as a guardian angel, it's got a ear, so it makes the double E sound with this. This is silent, so you will be that right there, double E R. Ear. See, and then if you take the hand of God away, because we know that was an angel, right? We know it's an angel. We know it's a guardian angel. So why did the 200 fall in the book of Enoch and came down and mated with women? Why? Because they're guardian angels. They're right here at this level with us. It's starting to make more sense now? They're with us. They're watching everything. So what do? They lust after women. They say, we're going to disrobe. And 200 of them come down. So we start out with a guardian angel that's supposed to be doing a job. He messes up. He loses the hand of God. So Ayin Resh is enemy. Okay? And if you take and transpose those, and you go Resh Ayin, because you're going to see words mirror themselves. That means evil. It's raw. So, see how the letters work? See how they've got such deep meaning behind them that...
Shane, isn't there an Egyptian king named Ra?
Yes. Absolutely. Evil, right? Right? And a lot of them Egyptians, the reason why they had the head shaped the way it was is because they were Nephilim bloodline. So...
Is that why they kept inbreeding?
Huh?
Is that why they kept inbreeding within themselves, so they kept their royal blood?
Yeah, and it's come down through actually every president we got, with the exception of Van Buren in every, the monarchy in England, you could actually see one of the queens has a elongated head. So once you go research this, it gets wild. But in the midst of this, go ahead.
You're saying every president, how does that work? Every president is...
Yeah, research it. It's every president they've proven goes back to, I think they call it the House of Plantagenets. They go back to the same relatives. Our presidents, you know the ones you elect? Which is wild. Yeah. I'm not going to go too deep into that because but you can research it. It's crazy. Basically, the way I look at this and the way the Lord has given this to me is go above and look at this. Okay? Go up in His and look down through His eyes. And all you're going to see is this fight of good and evil that's been going on since the Garden of Eden. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing this war that's going on. And if you do that, you won't get caught up in the earthly things of this fight.
You said they go back to what?
I think they call it the House of Plantagenets. You're going to have to go research it. It was
From England?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Whatever you want to, I can't spell it, but it's Plantagenets. Yep. It was funny because when I first came into this, he started taking me through and he was teaching me in the Tanakh, and then it got in a posture where I went off into that. I don't know whether you guys know Rob Skiva.
Oh, yeah.
Rob Skiva, okay. Rob's a good guy. Doing great, but Rob went under attack. This is where you get the flat earth thing. The guy's brilliant on the amount of other stuff he brought out. You guys will know this in my class if you come. And it's funny because there's such a war over this. But people got to understand, it's just like we learned in the Shamash. The center candle is the Shamash. The sun is the Shamash. Why? Because everything rotates around it. Yeshua is the center candle on the menorah. You can spin a menorah and everything rotates around that center candle. It's the same with the sun. The whole universe rotates around the sun. Now, in the flat earth theory, the whole universe rotates around the earth. Can't you see Satan in that? I'm sorry. But selfies, it's all about us earthly guys. You know? And that's what, learn the concepts and you'll understand how wrong it is. Don't worry about the facts. Because, man, you can prove both sides. You can literally come up with an argument perfect for both sides. But don't look at it that way. Look at it through the Father's eyes. That sun, which is the Shamash, which is the same S-U-N that's referenced in Malachi in the last chapter, where it says the sun, S-U-N, Shamash of righteousness, will be there. Okay, it's referenced in Yeshua, but why is it calling him the S-U-N? Why is it calling him the Shamash? He's the center of the universe. He's the center of the menorah. He's that attendant candle that we just seen in the teaching. He's the center. The throne of God. Ask yourself, do you think the throne of God revolves around us, earthly man? Don't work, does it? Once you see this, you understand it through biblical. Don't worry about the arguments. The arguments can be made both sides. That's why we've got people that follow both sides. It's not a salvation issue. It's kind of funny, I think, but it's not a salvation issue, so don't really get into it. But do, if you want to see the truth, look at it through His eyes, because it's obvious. It all surrounds Him. We revolve around Him. He don't revolve around us.
I just had a question about one of the symbols you wrote up there. Is that a letter that's part of the guardian angel, the symbol to the right? Go back.
Where are we at?
Right there, to the right there.
Yeah.
What is that?
Raish, this guy? Ayin? Yes.
What is that?
It's called the Nain. We haven't been over it yet, I'm sorry. If you go to this guy, Gotta borrow that for a sec?
Oh, is it on there?
Yep, you'll see it right here.
Okay.
Okay? IU's neat because it's got a numerical value of 70. Now you can see its importance, right? So, and understand one thing. And I'm making a point of this because you got to understand why he scattered the northern tribes. He scattered the northern tribes for us to assimilate among the heathen, among the nations. He's harvesting everywhere, guys, among the descendants of the Canaanites, the Nephilim. Okay? You got to understand, it's all a harvest. He takes and scatters us among all of this. He brings in who he wants to bring in. And it's by choice. It's by choice. So the reason why I tell you this is don't think, oh, do I have this bloodline? Do I have... No, you don't look at it this way. The ones that are in power, that have kept to themselves and has chosen this guy, it's going to not turn out good for them, no matter what their bloodline is. And it's opposite of that too, on the good side. The ones who have chosen him, no matter what your heritage is, you have chosen him. He's coming after you. This is why we had talked about it earlier. He says, and that's a deeper level, he says, in the parable, you're a tough master. You harvest where you did not sow. Okay? And this is why, and he put 70 nations, or 70 angels over the nations, and they were supposed to take care of them, and he put himself over Israel. And in the end, the reason why he scattered the northern tribes is so that we could assimilate. We could go amongst them and influence and marry and produce children. This is all, that's why Paul says, don't worry about your generations. Don't worry about your bloodline. Don't worry about this. Because we don't. I had showed earlier, because I had a question, how do we know we're Israel? Are we spiritual Israel, or are we just, is it just a statement? And I say, you are Israel. You can actually prove it to yourselves. Take your last name, and if it doesn't show up there, go back a generation, take your mother's last name, take your mother's last name, take your father's last name, and put it into Google, put the name down and put coat of arms afterwards. So we just looked up one Williams. We put Williams coat of arms and clicked on it in Google. It'll come up, and then you know how you have all or image. Click on image so you see nothing but images and look at them. If you give me your phone number, I'll shoot you all the information over it. It's got, people have done research on this deeply. And you'll see on your coat of arms, you're going to see the tribes of Israel on it. They're there. I'm telling you, they're there. If you're in this class and you have a heart, it's in your bloodline. It's gone back. We've assimilated, and he's coming to get you.
But it's not just the 10 tribes, right? Just like Judah.
Correct, because see, Judah was dispersed, or scattered amongst the nations. We were, there's this, the way you say this, we were dispersed, and Judah was, that was in 70 AD, however you would state that. But they were sent out amongst the nations too. They weren't divorced though. We were divorced. This is why Judah's first in the land.
Well, the northern tribes assimilated.
The northern tribes assimilated. Absolutely they did. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why you'll see on your coat of arms, you could see Judah on your coat of arms, but you can see actually other tribes within it too, on them. Our coat of arms, my wife's coat of arms is really cool. My last name's Dodge. Well, you guys can think this is funny. My wife's last name is Chrysler. Really cool. Boy, you ought to hear the stuff we got all our lives. You know, you guys gonna have little Jeeps or, you know. So, but the Chrysler one has a great big unicorn on one side and a great big gold lion on the other side. You know what that is? the unicorn is Ephraim. It's a prophecy that he was given the blessing and that Moses gave in Deuteronomy to the tribe of Joseph, which is hooked to Ephraim, right, Manasseh. And it says it says in your Tanakh, it'll say Re'aim. Re'aim is actually, they don't know what it is. They think it's an extinct animal. They think it was either a unicorn or an ox, which matches to Ephraim. But anyways, it says you will go out and gorge the nations with your horn. What's he doing? He's bringing them together. In other words, you know, like a skewer, right? You put all the different things on it. That's what the prophecy is. He's going to go out and assimilate. But he's going to bring all the tribes together on it. On this horn. So that's why the unicorn. So if you see a unicorn on yours, you're Ephraim. You'll see different things. If you see a gold lion, you're from the tribe of Judah, but Perez. If you see a red lion, you come through Zerah, which was the twin to Perez. But if you guys want it, I've got it on my phone. I've done a lot of research on it. And I'll shoot you the deals. And you'll go through, it'll show Gad, and then it'll show all the things that symbolize him. Naphtali's got ships on it. You'll see Dan has eagles on it. So forth. Ephraim has a unicorn. Also has, but it all has to do with the blessings, the two blessings. So yes, you are Israel. Somewhere in your bloodline, if you're here, just about bad. I've gone through a lot of, every time somebody new shows up, if I got their last name, I look it up. I just want to see. If I meet somebody, and I'll get a good vibe or a bad vibe. I've actually found only one that got a real bad vibe, and looked it up, and the guy had dragons all over his deal, which was like, I don't know what that is, but I don't see any tribes within it. But that doesn't mean that's bad, because you go back generations, because we so assimilated, and you can see through probably the guy's mother or his grandmother, or like this, you're going to see different tribes coming through. There's just a dominance among his father, is what you got.
So I have a question. Somebody asked if, when I was explaining this to him, they asked me if I was Hebrew. Now, Hebrew means to cross over, right? So I told him yes, because I have crossed over because I believe in Yeshua and I follow him.
Yeah, and it really is like crossing over from the worldly stuff or evil to good, to life. It's that crossing over. It's that decision that we all make. It's the born again moment. It's the, stay the things of the world. That's where your numbers come in. 666, 6 is man. You're made up of 3 parts, body, soul, and spirit. Okay? So 666 means you remained pure man in body and soul and spirit. 666. Now if you go graduate and go to the spiritual, which is the 7, which is the ayin. Are you starting to see this? Because this is 70. 770, 700, they're all line up. 7,000. Days like 1,000 years. So if you go give over yourself to him, you're 777. You've gone pure. You've completed. 7 is completion. 7 days of the week. And that's what you do. Sometimes you'll walk around as a 766 maybe, because you've made the choice bodily to take him on, but through your spirit and your soul, you just ain't there yet. You're out on the outside, you're physically saying, look, I've got a cross, I've got this, but have you changed those other 2 over?
The references that you're talking about, could you also ask Cheryl to put a link in the YouTube?
I've
started using YouTube as my witnessing tool too.
Oh, is the deal? Yes, I will. In fact, I'll go back and find those again. Absolutely. That's a good idea. That way you can go to them. But if anybody wants it, get me your number, your name, so I know who you are, and I'll put you in my phone. Because I got it right on my phone. I just shoot it right to your text. And then you'll have it, so every time you're walking around and you tell somebody this, you can say, look, here it is. Which makes it really cool. Vaughn?
Yeah, to get back to the 666 or whatever that, so on the third 7, let's say you're 776, but you can't get to that third 7 until the end. Is that correct, or can you do it while you're here on Earth?
Oh, no, yeah, it's committing here. Because this is where the decision's made. The thing about it is like I always show this, you know, if you open the door to him, okay, and it's been done, you think it might be done, I got to get on to the teaching too, but you think it might be only at the cross forward? No. Once you truly see what's happening, did you know Moses knew that was the Messiah? Did you know Abraham knew it was the Messiah? He absolutely knew who he was. We're under this illusion that they didn't because he came in a manger that is taught by Catholicism, and there he is. But the funny thing about it, that same book they're reading in John 1:1 says, in the beginning. He's always been here in this creation, which is a whole other teaching. I may not even touch on till you're deep into this because you'll walk out the door. But it is so cool once you see the depth of this, because he says, you know, Father, give me the glory I had with you before the universe was created. You got to understand the Father used Yeshua to create everything. Okay? But where did he come from? If you don't understand the Hebrew, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It doesn't say he's the Father. It says he's Elohim. He's Elohim. It doesn't say he's the Father. But did he come from the Father? 100%. He's the only one that ever has. We came from the things that were created with Yeshua. And the whole angelic world, everything else did. But there's only one who came directly from the Father. He's the only begotten Son. He's not a created being. He has been pulled from the Father, and it actually shows it in Scripture. And we'll get into that sometime, but I'm going to leave you hanging a lot. It seems like this morning, but or this afternoon we'll take it and... But that'll keep you coming back. If you're really interested in seeing this, you'll keep coming back. Remember last week I told you 2016, I showed you that's where the Pope put together all the, Daniel 9 prophecy, supposedly the 7-year tribulation, which don't exist. There is a 7, and it is in Daniel 9, but it says that he will make a covenant with the great ones. Well, he did. The he is the prince of the people that destroyed Rome in 70 AD, or destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, which is Rome. Okay? So the he that made a covenant with the great ones is Catholicism, it's the Catholic Church. And they started a deal called the Ecumenical Movement, where they took all the great ones, all the world religious leaders, brought them all together and took them in 2016, and they started it way back. But it culminated in 2016 at the beginning of this 7 in Daniel. 2016, he takes and brings them all to the Temple Mount. And they make a covenant that all world religions worship the same God. Buddha, Hindu, which is kind of funny because Hindu worships, I think, 70 different gods. So, boy, that's an akkad, right? If that's the case, but he says all of them, we all worship the same God. Okay? So, he made a covenant with the great ones. The next thing he did is he went after our children. 2016, it was called The Gathering. I took it and actually went and got some pictures of it. And we got the video, so we can link it. to this also, but I wanted to. It's funny, you watch the video, and it looks really not that bad. But for some odd reason, if you look at this was the Together 2016. Okay, this was the documentary they did on it. They took our children to Washington, D.C. at the base of that obelisk. We know that obelisk is a piece of Osiris. Okay, this is the Antichrist that's going to be showing up, so now they're worshiping him. His symbol is the circle, but it's a snake. Look it up. Ouroboros? I forgot how to pronounce it. But if you look this up, just put in Google snake eating its tail. It'll come up. Okay? And that's the symbol of it for Osiris, the Antichrist. And the Pope just gave a call out in 2016 to have all of our youth and the Christian churches, and boy, they showed up by the droves, even the pastors and everybody, and they stood in the center circle of the snake eating its tail and worshiped.
Are they just clueless of all this stuff, or are they, I mean, they're deceived, but how do the churches do this? How do the pastors not see what?
I don't know. It breaks my heart to see this, because I bring this out so that it's a good shock factor for everybody, so they could realize this stuff is going on underneath our noses and nobody's picking up on this. And if you try to get this, I'm wondering how long this will stay on YouTube once we start getting more hits. But see the snake eating its tail? See the mouth is open and then the tail? That's one of the symbols for it, but I wish that would just click. And it used to, there it goes.
It's part of the global agenda. I mean, these pastors,
They're part of it. I'm telling you right now, leadership is part of it. You know why? Because they are supporting themselves from the congregation's tithing, which the Messiah warned everybody about this. Because if they tell the truth, they can't pay their power bills. They can't pay their mortgages. And then if it gets too high, you get up in Kenneth Copeland and he can't go buy a new jet. Heaven forbid, right? So this is the problem. This is why in this class, you guys know this, I'm a metal worker. I work at home. I support myself. That tithing that comes into there pays for this building and pays for the printing, pays for paper. Anything left over, I use the money to buy Knox and I give them out. That ain't going to get a hold of me. It's not going to do it. In fact, we're four weeks ahead right now on renting this place. So, and I always keep it ahead as far as possible. And if it ever gets to a point where there's so much excess, I'm going to tell you guys to stop. We've got plenty. We're so far ahead. But it's keeping balanced out. A lot of the new people need a Knox. I know people on the outside that are asking for them, and that's what we do. Okay? So, they can't. I feel bad for them, because I get it. Imagine that. If they tell the truth, they can lose their homes. They've put themselves in that posture, but now something else is controlling you. And this is the problem. I feel bad. I feel bad for them. But to much is given, much is expected. The ones that really irritate you is when you try to show them and tell them stuff, and those are the ones that immediately oppose you. And then those are the ones like Yeshua said, Satan's your father, because if you can't open your heart to this message here, but you'll see it. You see it there. You can see them standing in the middle of it. How can you stand there and not look down and see what you're standing in the middle of? It's called a reset too, right? So you go on. There it is again. Real clear picture of it. There it is again. Now look at this guy. Here's the problem. Huge problem. This guy is given, and I'll show you the message. Look at the together. Do you see the snake eating its tail on the t-shirt?
Oh, no.
So now, he gives him, I don't know who this is. It's one of the pastors or somebody. He gives the Pope this book called The Reset. Now listen to the Pope's message to all of our children. You would think that he would say, come and join us to worship. You would think he would say, we're going to keep going. You would think, Ken, can you get this back on,
There it
was it there?
Yeah.
It'll always go to this. You know how to go into the mode where you select the, okay. Thought we did it one time. Bradley did it for me the other day.
Yeah, let me just look at it.
If not, I can just restart real quick.
Okay.
If you want me to restart instead.
Probably be easier.
Okay, let me just go into it and restart. I need to buy a longer cord for this.
Pull your table over just a little bit more, maybe that way.
Give it to where it's not so. I can get this up here. Okay. Shut this guy off. That's okay. Just shut him off. But you would think that he would be given a message like, hey, our children, I invite the Christian children up to worship Jesus, their Messiah. Something like this, right? You would think that message would be, but listen to it once we get this back up. Shouldn't take that long.
There you go.
That'll disappear. Okay, I invite you to a great gathering of youth in Washington, D.C. to find the one who can give you an answer to your restlessness. Boy, isn't that funny how wide open the door he leaves. So who's this one?
Yeah, who is the one?
And one's capitalized.
I invite you to put on this t-shirt. So that you can clothe yourself. Listen to that wording. Garden of Eden. But he wants you to clothe yourself in this guy. And respond to the big restlessness. Did anybody know this even went on?
Yeah, I remember hearing.
You remember hearing about this?
I listened to the whole thing way back when, online.
It's right there at the base of this guy.
Oh my gosh.
They all do it right there in the center of that. All the messages go out. So, this is the 7 that we just went through from 2016 to 2022. So, I don't know how far we're going to get into the deal, but I'm going to jump into it.
Which pope was that?
It's a current one. I don't even know what his name is.
I know. Francis?
Francis? Is it?
I think so.
He's actually labeled as the last pope. If you read Petrus Romanus, the book, he's labeled as the last pope. And he's labeled as the black pope too, because he's the only Jesuit. Yep.
Just like Biden. Isn't Biden a Jesuit?
Yep, sure is. It's the Black Order. They actually worship Satan at the deal in Rome, down the street at the Temple of Malta, that's right there by the Vatican. They go down there and have black masses, and that's why they call him Black Pope. That's why they call the Jesuits the Black Order. I mean, once you go research this, it is It is crazy how deep we're into this and how much control the beast empire has over. Oops, I went into that. Last week, do go into, if you haven't seen or weren't here for last week's teaching, please go into it. You will see it be deciphered, but you're going to see it approached a different way this week. But it's going to be similar to it. Definitely do get out your Tanakh and go to Daniel 12, which is in page 1811. So we start with this key, 5778, okay? You've seen it in the Fibonacci sequence, you've seen it as the surface temperature of the sun, and so forth. This is referenced, the way he laid this out is through the knowledge of the Bible, and when he gave this to me, it's Matthew 24, this is the parable of the fig tree, where Yeshua says, let the fig tree, which is Israel, teach you its lesson. When you see its branches and leaves appear, here they appeared in 1948. This was the culmination, right? That Israel became a state. When you see its branches and leaves appear, he says, surely you will know the time is near. Because they asked the question, when are you coming back? So it has to do with that, his coming back. And he says, surely you will know the time is near, right at the door. And the doorway that you guys seen in the 2015, 16, 17, and 18. Because if you go to the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th place in the Fibonacci sequence, it adds up to 5778. And that's a mathematical sequence. You can't make that thing up. It's what he breathed forth through his mouth, the pay, that mathematical formula, and he put the whole plan, he put the dates, he put all of it right in it. You guys seen this last week. Psalms 90, 10. Do this for reference purposes, but you guys, if you've ever been there, you'll see where it says a generation. Because after Yeshua says that in Matthew 24, he says, surely this generation will not pass until all these things happen. Okay? I mean, he's given hints everywhere, right? They asked a specific question. He's telling them. He's given them the hints, which are now coming in real handy for us. Psalms 90, 10, it says, the days of our lives are 70 years, or 80 in strength. Showed this before. 70 years is a generation, which is what you're seeing from 48 to 2018. But 80 in strength, how long are we going to hold out? This whole thing has to do with us bowing to him. And we're so stiff-necked, this is why he stuck another 10 on this. Because he's like, I can do this in 2018. Then once you see this in 57, 78, I can show up. 70 years is a generation. When's all this going to happen? But he says 80 in strength. Why didn't he say, well, between 70 and 80? Why didn't he say that in Psalms 90? If that's what he's talking about. No, because he says, or 80 in strength. In other words, how hard-headed, how stiff-necked are we going to be not to bow to our Messiah? And because when he comes, we know for a fact every knee will bow. So, boom, we're right there. 70 years. Also, I'm not going to go into it, but you can write it down. You'll see it on we reference it on the YouTube video, but Psalms 102:19 speaks of this newborn people. So in Daniel 12, 11 and 12, 11 through 12. Daniel 11, this is how we had to decipher this backwards, right? It says, from the time the daily offering was removed to the mute abomination put into place, 1,290 years. So this is exactly in Hebrew, that verse. But we're going to actually go into exactly what it says. And you could do this in Bible Hub. If you want to do this on your own, you can do it and you'll see how accurate this is. But we got From the time, and, it's and, see the vowel, and from the time. Now look at these two words because they're being held up with the haze. So it's like, behold. Understand in English, the doesn't mean hardly anything, right? We throw that thing around all over the place. In Hebrew, hey, which can be translated as the, but it means behold. Like if you were going to say and translate it correctly, the king or king in English, and referenced in Hebrew, you would say king is just, hey, any king. Or you would say, behold, king. That's why it should be written instead of the king. It should say, behold, king. So it holds this up. Okay? So when you see the on these two words, it's holding these words up. So it says the removed. So from the time the removed, the continual, this is that continual offering. So man, he's holding it up. And is set up. This is the abomination that causes desolation. It actually says detested thing, appalled. So it should be the detestable thing that should appall you, is probably one of the hardest hitting translations to this. Yom, days, so the days that it gets done, days, 1,290. So this is the way I approached this, because I could not believe it when he led me to do this. I went into Daniel also, when I shoot you guys the deals on the tribes. If I get your phone number and stuff, I'll shoot it on the tribes. I also have on my phone the book of Daniel, every verse and chapter. It's the amount of Hebrew words in each verse and the amount of the numerical value of the entire verse and how many words and letters are in each verse. I went through the full 12. It's crazy too because you got to go around because it's Aramaic also. So there's a lot of places where it's in brackets. You'll see it in Daniel, and it's because the rabbis are trying to make sense of certain words. So what they do is they put it in brackets so they know, hey, if it's in brackets, we change this, but they keep the original. So when I did count, you got to count the original. So, but if you want that, I can shoot it to you. Okay? Right away, that verse has 10 words in it. That caught my attention. There's the tree of life. 10 fingers, 10 commandments, 10 trials Abraham went through, and it has 42 letters, which are the journeys in the wilderness, which is the same journeys we're traveling, which is that same one that'll be at the very end of 42 months. That the Antichrist and the two witnesses will rule. This 42 is highly significant. Okay? So when I seen this, then is when the Lord's like, go into Daniel and lay this all out. Do this. Go research it. So that took a while, but it was all put together, and I found there's a total of 4 verses in Daniel that has that same 10 words, 42 letters. And you would not believe what it does. Because when you decipher it backwards, just read it backwards. And you guys seen the teaching last week. You're going to see this thing just play out. It is awesome. So, here are the different ones, the 4. So this is what we're going to go into. So if we go 2018. Now remember, I told you we got to do this backwards, because in verse 12 it says, praiseworthy is he who awaits and reaches 1,335 years. Now, in other words, if you make it to the 70th year, Judah's brought back to the land. Israel's starting to be brought back, all of us. But the 70th year, you got to have praiseworthy if you make it to that, because it's going to be so cool. Because, excuse me, prior to this, the Ottoman Empire ruled for 40 or 400 years. They didn't know Israel was even coming back. So praiseworthy is Boy, won't that be a kicker if I lose my voice.
Cough drop? Yeah, cough drop.
Please. These are so big. The opposition, you would not believe the amount of opposition that came on this week. Just because of these two teachings coming out. Thank you. Awesome. So what we do with this is we decipher it backwards, okay? So we take this key that was given to us and we go backwards because we want to see when the daily offering was removed. And then we'll count the 1,200, what did it say, 1,290 years?
Yes.
We're going to count those forward to see when the mute abomination was set up. Or the detestable thing that should appall you. Okay? And I know we went over this last week, but I'm going to incorporate this. So watch, just keep. So as we go back 1,335 years, and 683 was when the Dome of the Rock was conceived. They started cleaning off in 683, and then 684, they started construction. They taxed Egypt for 7 years, and it was completed in 691. So this sacred place where we've seen that this entrance to the Garden of Eden is, with this angel, this Ha-Ayir, see how it was held up? Ha-Ayir is sitting there with the sword. He was the Lamed Vav Zayin. He was the shepherd that is bound to the sword. That's what Luz is. So he's right there on the Temple Mount. That's the importance of this place. There was sacrifices taking place there in the heavenly realm, and all of this whole thing came to a screeching halt when Satan set himself up there. Okay? So he sets himself up there. We know this right here is the Dome of the Rock. You see the marble sitting beside it. See the demons? They're embedded right in the rock. There's the sacred rock. They actually got a place on here where they think the Ark of the Covenant. There's a spot on there where it fits perfectly. So, I mean, that's where Abraham took his Isaac up to be sacrificed. So you can see this is a sacrificial place. We seen this last week. Right here, Isaiah 14:13 through 14. He says, I will set myself up on the Mount of Meetings on the northern side, and I will exalt myself up to heaven as if I am God, right? I'm paraphrasing it, but it says, I'll exalt myself up as if I am God. That's what he did. He set himself up on the northern side of the Mount of Meetings. You can see right here is the eastern wall. Muslim cemetery is right here. So Satan in the spiritual is doing everything in his power to keep us out of the Garden of Eden. Because he got us kicked out way back, he don't want us back in. So it's bleed over in the physical. What's happening in the spiritual bleeds over into the physical. Right there is one of what it has, Dome of the Rock, Muslim cemetery, trying to keep us out, right? And we know in the end, Yeshua puts his feet on the Mount of Olives. He faces this way in Zechariah and splits that whole thing wide open. He opens up the way back into the Garden of Eden. And all these buildings and all this stuff, gone. Toast. He flattens that whole thing out and he prepares it for the New Jerusalem. I mean, once you see the depths of this, it's so beautiful. But there he is. He sets himself up. Now, watch this play out. You seen it last week, but watch it play out in the book of Daniel, everywhere where these 10 words and 42 letters are. So Daniel 8:11, if it matches, it's going to match the stopping of this daily sacrifice that just happened. So we go to 8:11, page 1799. That verse there has 10 words and 42 letters in the Hebrew. It says, it exalted itself up to the master of hosts. Because of it, the daily offering was removed, and the foundation of the sanctuary was thrown down. That was right on the money through 10 words, 42 letters. It just matched with it. Okay? So now, that was done. Now we're going to go from this daily offering was put in place, or was stopped, and then we're going to go to the detestable thing that should appall you. So we go 1,290 years. Because we went in verse 12, now we're working backwards. Just like we're traveling backwards now through those verses, those 4 verses, to find out this same thing, because it's got to be done. The key was given now, so we got to go backwards to find it. Okay? So, we go back 1,290 years. That lands perfectly on a Shemitah year, on a sabbatical year, which is 1973, which we know 1973 is when Roe versus Wade was put into place. This is the detestable thing that should appall you, because everybody's thinking of this goofy building, but we're the temple, and the sacrifices are taking place in the temple of God. Because I don't need to explain how an abortion happens, because we know they go up inside the mother, and that's what's happening. This detestable thing that should appall you is the abortion issue. It isn't building a building in Jerusalem called the Third Temple, and some dude walks in there with a pig or something like Antiochus did and butchers it. It's like I said before, seriously, they build a building in Jerusalem called the Third Temple. In the condition Israel's in, because it says in the end time Israel is going to be in the condition of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is sin and slavery. Do you truly think the Shekinah of God is going to come down in a cloud and go into that building? No. Ain't going to happen. So if it doesn't, it's not holy. Because we know He makes the building holy. And if it's not holy, I don't care what happens in there. What difference does it make? It's not going to be this detestable thing that should appall you. I've asked pastors that, and I'm like, would that appall you? If somebody went in there and, yeah, that would appall me. Seriously. So it doesn't appall you that they're going inside of women and cutting children up and pulling them out in parts? And so which one appalls you worse? It's so obvious, and it's right in front of us. So 1973, you'll see this whole thing come apart now, because just like the apostasy is going to feed Satan, in 73, the sacrifice of our children started feeding him. So what happens? He gains power in the spiritual, and he sends his angels out to influence these countries here, Egypt, Syria, and Iraq, to come against God's people in Israel. And we get the Yom Kippur War, which is the Day of Atonement, right? Also, something else happens. 1973, the Twin Towers goes up. This is where it gets interesting, because you're going to see this whole thing play out through when we hit the next 10 words, 42 letters. But the Twin Towers goes up. It says the ribbon cutting ceremony was April 4th, 1973. Also, we got in bed with Saudi Arabia because she put the the dollar, the oil under the dollar bill called the petrodollar in exchange for military protection. Because then we started setting up over there encampments and all types of stuff. And because of that, us being there, we had to protect the place. So we got in bed with probably one of the biggest slave trade nations in the world. Human trafficking. Okay? So, So now what we did is I took this section here and expanded it out. So we're going to go from 73 to 2018. Like I said, 1973 was a sabbatical year. So let's go to Daniel 4, 8 through 14.
Daniel 4, 8 through 14.
Yes, yeah, Daniel chapter 4. We're going to start in verse 8. But the thing about it is this verse 8 has 10 words and 42 letters. So it starts the story. So you're going to see me read on because you're going to see this thing play out. So in Daniel 4:8 it says the tree. Now remember what happened? In 1973. So we're going to start right here. So 1973:8 it says, the tree grew and became strong. Its heights reached the heavens. It was visible to the ends of the entire earth. Its foliage was beautiful and its fruit plentiful. And there was food for all in it. Every nation in this world was represented in those trade buildings. All trade that fed the entire world went through those financial buildings. So picture this because something's happening in the spiritual at the same time. But there's those ones, okay? They went up on 1973. Its foliage was beautiful and its fruit plentiful. That where it says fruit, there actually links to Revelation 18:14 if you want to write that down.
18 what?
18:14. You'll see it talk about fruit. And Revelations 18 is actually where Babylon starts falling. Its fruit was plentiful, and there was food for all in it. Under it, the beasts of the field took shade. Beasts are always represented, nations are always represented as animals, as beasts. So all the nations, under it the beasts of the field took shade, and the birds of the heaven nested in its branches, and all flesh was fed from it. In the vision of my head upon my bed, I was watching, and behold, an Ayir, a holy angel, came down from heaven. He cried out loudly and said, chop down the tree and cut off its branches. So we count the sevens. 1973, when this thing went up that's feeding all the nations, and we come to 1994. You guys have seen this last week. This was in 1994, 21 asteroids pummeled Jupiter. If you didn't see this, go back to last week's teaching and it'll explain a lot. But 21 asteroids. Asteroids, stars in Revelations are angels. So 21 angels now pronounce judgment on Jupiter. Because 21 asteroids pummeled Jupiter. Jupiter, if you look it up in Greek mythology, is Zeus. Zeus is the dragon. So 21 angels just pronounces judgment upon the beast kingdom in 1994. 7 years later, 21 angels, right? So 3 sevens is what we're going to be counting. The count of the sevens. So 7 years later, right on a sabbatical year, the Twin Towers falls. So now listen to this statement again as you look at this visual. It says, he cried out loudly and said, chop down the tree and cut off its branches, cast down its foliage and scatter its fruit. Let the animals, the nations, move away from under it, and the birds from its branches. And if you go to Revelations 18, it says, verse 1, after these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven. There he is, the one that flew. He had great authority and the earth was lit up by his splendor. He cried out in a strong voice, she has fallen, she has fallen, Babylon the Great. She has become a home for demons, a prison for every unclean spirit, a prison for every unclean, hated bird. What did it say about the birds, the branches? There it is. It was taken down. This was the beginning of the fall of Babylon. But Babylon is actually in 3 sections. Because if you were in Revelations 18, you'll see, oh no. And you'll see it actually says, oh no in here, but it says, woe, woe in the original. So it says, woe, woe, the great city Babylon, the mighty city. In a single hour your judgment has come. Do you know from the first plane to the second plane was in less than an hour? In a single hour, your judgment has come. The world's businessmen weep, mourned over her, because no one would buy their merchandise anymore. Stocks of gold, silver. That's all the stuff that went through there. Gold, silver, gems, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, all rare woods, all ivory goods, all kinds of things made of scented wood, brass, iron, marble, cinnamon, corundum, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, flour, grain, sheep, cattle, horses, chariots. I love the reference to chariots because you're going to see that in Isaiah 21. You'll actually see 3 chariots ride in Isaiah 21. You're going to see a horse chariot ride, you're going to see a donkey chariot ride, and you're going to see a camel chariot ride. Put all 3 of those in your mind, because the horse chariot has to do with, I'm going to jump around a lot, but you guys can follow me on this. It's going to be on YouTube, which makes it really nice, because 21. Now get this. How many angels pummeled Jupiter? 21. In Isaiah 21.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what I say. In verse 7, I'm just showing, I told you at the beginning of these teachings, you're going to see the chapter and verses tell this story too. In verse 7, chapter 21, he will see chariot, a pair of horsemen, a donkey chariot, and a camel chariot. And he will listen intensely, which much to hear. And he will call out like a lion, my Lord, stand on the lookout constantly during the day, and I am stationed at my post at night. Behold, it is coming, a chariot with a pair of horsemen. There's the first one that ride. You will see, pop back, because you got to have a lot of knowledge in order to see this, but you go to Isaiah 2, verse 7, its land became full of silver and gold, with no end to its treasuries. So you can see masting amount. Remember, silver, gold was all mentioned there in Revelations 18. Its land became full of horses with no end to its chariots. It's totally linked. The horse chariot is totally linked to financial and all the things that went through this trade center. He also told Solomon, do not amass horses and chariots. Wealth. Okay? So, knowing that,
Shane, is the horse chariot also Egypt?
it can be, because you could see Egypt when they rode after them in the chariots and the horses. They ran the world back then, so they were the wealth. Okay? They amassed wealth, right? Building pyramids, making Israelites work in slave labor, and same thing we're doing now, right? You think you're supporting yourself? Who are you supporting? Egypt. You're supporting the government. That's why taxes are going through the roof. That's why you're not going to get very far. Because, I don't know, you can probably figure up taxes were probably, what, 30, 40? 50% of your wages is all going back? I think I don't even want to get into that.
No.
But you guys know, there was certain turning points, and we're way past that turning point, But anyways, so he says, behold, it is coming, a pair of horse, or a chariot with, and this is verse 9 now in Isaiah 21, a chariot with a man, a pair of horsemen, and he exclaimed, it is fallen. Babylon has fallen. There it is. There's the horse. It's rode already, but we still got two chariots that have not rode. Okay, let's look at the second chariot in Revelations 18, because you go to verse 16, and here's our, because the woes give it away. It shows you three different ones. So verse 16, woe, the great city that used to wear fine linen, purple and scarlet. Tell me who this is describing. She glitters with gold, precious stones, and pearls. Such great wealth. Who's that? That's right, it's the Vatican. The Vatican is the donkey chariot. Look up the word donkey. Homer. Homer means donkey. Pull your vav out, which is always done because you end up with just a dot there, right? Homer, Hamar, means red wine. Can mean wine. What did the whore of Babylon have in her hand? She went with the kings of the earth, 17. The kings of the earth went whoring with her, and the people living on earth became drunk from her wine. Okay, so Homer, donkey, can mean wine. It can mean red. Who else is referenced as red in the Bible? Esau. Edom. It says because of the red suit that he wanted, right? So they said his name is Edom. Remember what it says in prophecy, that he's going to come down to Edom? He'll sate his sword in heaven first and then come down to Edom next. The Catholic Church, the Roman Empire, is descendants. Do you know Homer is also the name of a Canaanite? Who did Esau marry? The Canaanites. And then he married Ishmael. So his bloodline hit two places. Okay? One of the places they've run the bloodline on the Roman Empire, and it comes from Esau. It's Edom. Also, this word just as donkey goes so deep, and is so, this Homer. Look it up in the Strongs. You'll see it, and then make sure you back over to the side because you'll see it without the vav. It also means material or materialism. So does that link to the Catholic Church? How much stuff do they got in the Vatican's basement? Materialism. How much property do they own? Or used to. They're actually going down. But this is materialism. They're amassing as much materialistic things as possible. And that's what the donkey represents, is materialism. Okay? That's why Yeshua rode on the donkey, because he brought it under his submission. How did he do this? Now, keep watching this because this is really cool. You can see it when he chose the apostles. He's like, leave everything. Materialism, leave it all and come and follow me. He put materialism, the donkey, under his submission. And that's why he rode in on. Is that the coolest thing? Do you know rabbis teach on that? They just don't see Yeshua as that. But it is so awesome to see the different layers of this. So it links to Adam. It links to materialism. It links to the Canaanites. It links to the red wine, which now links to the whore of Babylon. In 17, it talks about her, the Babylon, the great mother of whores and the earth's obscenities. This was written on her forehead. Okay? So if she is the mother of harlots, she produced daughters. So who are the Catholic Church? What daughters did she produce? Presbyterians, Baptists. Just pick all your words. She even had influence over Islam because Muhammad's wife was Catholic.
You said Presbyterian and what else?
All of them. Just label them. Why? Because what they do, first they change the Sabbath. So they're violating the laws of God, the Father. And then they turn around and say, you don't got to follow the Torah. And you guys have seen in this study what the New and the Old Covenant are. Neither one of them say to violate the Torah. In fact, all of them say, you shall follow this Torah. And he knows we can't. But we try. We try. We're going to mess up. We try. But in the New Covenant, which hasn't happened yet, in the millennial kingdom, because it says that you will not sin. He's like, I will place my Torah. I will place my Torah in you. And you will follow it. You won't have to teach your fellow man. Because you will know it. Because you got my spirit in you. It shows it in Isaiah. It shows what these covenants. Nowhere in there does it say that the Torah is dead and you don't got to follow it. But what does the church teach? They teach what Mom told them. Now they might say, oh, we're not connected to Mom. Hey, I'm sorry, but the daughter carries traits of the mother. And you have. And daughters rebel against the mother. And you have. But you're no different. You've carried down these pagan practices, and so here we got her. And you can see it. It's real evident. She's wearing, the great city used to wear fine linen, purple and scarlet. Look at your bishops, cardinals. It's neat too, scarlet, red. What's donkey? Homer means red. Okay. She glitters with gold, precious stones, such great wealth in a single hour she'll be ruined. That's actually the Fatima, the third secret in the Fatima prophecy that was given in 1917 when this count, and God started bringing back his people.
Wait, which one was the prophecy?
Say this again. The last one was the third one.
The third secret of Fatima.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll get into that. I'm going to show you ex-Jesuit named Malachi Martin did interviews with the radio talk show host Art Bell in the late 90s. He spills the beans on this whole thing. Except he doesn't really, because he can't give it word for word, but if you listen to it, and once you guys hear it, you'll see it. But there was 3 secrets to Fatima. The first one was, and they were all given in 1917. Okay? 1917 was the beginning of this count that God started. You've seen it on the sheet. So you could see it's absolutely. Now, was it the Virgin Mary that appeared? I truly do not believe it was. Because I just don't. Because if you go back and research it, you'll see the kids reference that an angel appeared. And then the Vatican gets involved because they go to the local priest and he gets the Vatican involved. The Vatican comes down and they torture these kids. Go research it, you'll see it. They torture these kids and now all of a sudden it's the Virgin Mary and she's telling them, make sure you say your rosary. Seriously. You can see the deception within it. But 1917 carried 2 really significant things. And that was bringing God's people back and then the destruction, what's going to happen to the Antichrist and his empire. This is why you got to think of this. In Revelation 17, the whore rides the beast. Okay? Now in Isaiah, it says when this Babylon goes down, the Vatican, it says that she says, I will not be a widow. I will not know bereavement. And then God says, you will be a widow and you'll know bereavement in a single day. Matching this. This is in Isaiah and we'll go into all that. Okay? So how's she going to become a widow? Who is this one who rides the beast? She is the bride of Satan. That's the Catholic Church, guys. I know it's so hard. Once you see all the connections, she's the bride of Satan. That's why she's going to become a widow. Because you got to have a husband in order to become a widow. And what happens to her husband? And it's right there at the end that Babylon, when she falls. The horseman went first, the donkey will go in the end, and the chariot will go in the end. But the reason why she becomes a widow is because the Antichrist, who is the beast, is thrown in the lake of fire alive. She just became a widow. And bereavement in a single hour. So at the same, now we know when that one will ride. Because we know in the very end, when Yeshua comes down, rides down on the white horse, we're up, tucked away, as it says in Isaiah 26, go into your room for but a brief moment until the wrath is past. We're tucked away, and he comes down and fights that big war, calls to the birds of the heavens, come for the great feast, and he grabs, he has the Antichrist and the false prophet thrown into the lake of fire alive. And it's actually in Isaiah. If you got to see, this is everywhere. In Isaiah, where it showed that he's going to set himself up on the Mount of Meetings, you just keep reading there, and you'll go up and you'll see. It says, you will be flung from your grave like a detested tree shoot, and you will not know burial. You will not be buried with the kings of the earth, it says. Why? Because he's going in the lake of fire alive. He's not even going to be killed here. God's going to pick him up and chuck him right through the dimension, right into the lake of fire, alive in this human body. And he's going in. Him and the false prophet are. That's why it says you will not know burial. You will not be buried with the kings of the earth. You have to have all the puzzle pieces. Once you got them all, you just walk in, you put them all together, and right there's the picture. Right there's the show in the end. So we've got the one dressed in purple and scarlet, that's a donkey, and then the camel chariot. Listen to the camel chariot. It says, all the ship's masters, passengers, sailors, and everyone making their living from the sea. And this is in 17, after I read about the other one. Stood at a great distance and cried out. Why are they making their living from the sea? Because Mecca, which is who we got into bed with in 1973, Saudi Arabia, because it says in one of the Isaiah prophecies, when a Babylon goes down, it's funny, that's why it's so confusing. If you don't know there's three, you'll go through Isaiah and all these Babylons are fallen, in Isaiah and Jeremiah, and you're going to be like, no, this makes sense. This don't make sense. This one's saying this one's saying this. Well, once you divide them up, you know these three? It says in Isaiah that after this one Babylon falls, it says no Arab will pitch his tent there no more. Then it talks about Lilith setting up there. Lilith, she's a female demon. What are they worshiping in Mecca?
Female demon.
That's right, it's attached to that stone. Because they caress it like a female. And
The Medina?
huh?
The Medina?
Yep, Mecca.
Oh,
Yeah, in Mecca. It's the big cube, and they circle it every year. They come in and go around it every year. It's the Muslim pilgrimage.
Is that the temple now?
No. It's in Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia receives all of its goods through the Red Sea. It doesn't come over land. It comes through the Red Sea.
Only way it can get there.
That's right, because it's all desert up on the other part. So, knowing that, all the shipmasters, passengers, sailors, and everyone making their living from the sea stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning. They're only seeing the smoke because if you look at Mecca on the map, it sets in a ways. In far enough where you'll see the smoke, but you're not going to see the flames, and you're not going to see the city from the sea. So, from the smoke of her burning, what city was like the great city? See how there's three to this? And this is why this is so hard to decipher unless you got the big picture. Because every one of them keeps saying, what's this great city? But we know that right there is city. So that's why it says in 18 that there's a great city that ran the kings of the earth. Is it really city? Or is it showing you in the spiritual there's a great angel over the top of these? guys that are, which is Satan. Okay? What city is like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads and wept and mourned. That's a Middle Eastern practice. We don't throw dust on our heads when something happens here. But they do still over there throw dust on their heads. Oh, no. It says, woe, woe, the great city. The abundance of her wealth made all the ship owners rich. There it is. Saudi Arabia, boy, the oil money coming out of there. And it says in a single hour, she was ruined. Now you see the three Babylons. And they're right in front of us. This is playing out, guys. We're in the midst of this. 9/11, the horse chariot rode, and the fall of Babylon began. It already began. This is why he's got this so welled up inside of me to tell everybody. Because Satan has got people deceived in this so massively. And if you go to take this information to any pastor, he's going to war against it. Why? Is it a Pharisee we're talking to? Are their father the devil? Are they worshiping something else besides the creator of this universe? That's the problem. Now, is all that way? No. There's some that are trapped, have good hearts. You know, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is leadership is passing on this lie, and they've been passing it on for a long time. And I pray that you guys are open, having your eyes open to how deep we're in this and how this timeline is playing out. So it says, we'll go back to Daniel. We're back to 4. So it says, chop down the tree and cut off its branches, cast its foliage and scatter its fruit. Okay, there it is. Let animals move away from it and from under it, and the birds from its branches. Remember I mentioned the birds in Revelations 11 or Revelations 18? The evil ones that were there. You got to keep making these matches so that you see them here. It says, she became a home for demons, a prison for every unclean spirit, a prison for every unclean, hated bird.
What verse is that?
That is verse 2.
Where are we?
Revelations 18, verse 2. Okay, do you see? I know it's jumping around a lot, but what you got to understand, what the Lord did is he took this beautiful story, and it's like he just put it all into puzzle pieces. Like you just took a puzzle piece that had 1,000 pieces in it, and you dump it out on the table. Each one of them has got a depth like you cannot believe, but you got to put them back together. And then he took scripture and he told stories. So in other words, what he's saying is, you know me, him, in a depth in the Hebrew, back to the original, like nobody, like you learn all of this. You learn the Hebrew, you learn the alphabet, approach it as a child. You ain't got to talk the language. Look at your pictorial and all this, your numerics. You know him that deep at that level. And you're going to be like, there it is. Because I seeked him out, because I drew near to him, he put in Scripture what's going to happen in the end and the timeline. It's right there, but you got to know all of this. You got to know the big picture in this. You got to see all the pieces in order to take them and then start setting the puzzle pieces into place. And what you do is, like I said, there was a time where when he's working with me, I could look up and I can see in the visual, and I still do it. I mean, it's happening now, but you see it and you can see the whole plan. You can see it play out. You can see the fall, you can see the Babylons happening, you can see the 7 happening, you can see him connecting it to this girl that, wow! It is wild to see this, and it is powerful. But you can see this girl painting these pictures showing the 2 comings of the Messiah. That's Oceana, Chimeric. You can see the whole thing as he's working. 21 Astros pummeling Jupiter. And you can see the beast kingdom and the spiritual just going down. You can see this judgment is pronounced, and you can see the first fall of the Babylon. And you can see, that's why you have to back up. You got to look through his eyes. Don't look through these. Don't look at the news. This is junk. This is deception. This whole you're going to get so fogged in your head. I start to watch any of that. I don't even watch TV. I start to watch any of that, and this starts to disappear. And you talk about I got motivation to not, because I want this. This is the thing, but. You'll literally see all the puzzle pieces of this once you put it together. So, he says, chop down the tree. We're in Daniel 4, verse 11. And he cried out loudly and said, chop down the tree. There's the Babylon is fallen. Cut off its branches, cast its foliage, scatter its fruit. Let the animals move away from it and from under it, and the birds. There's some birds again from the branches. However, leave a major root in the ground. Now remember this. Remember when the Twin Towers went down and it all had to do with this tree?
Yes.
And the roots?
Yes.
Okay? What happened is we were bound to it. Because he says, birds scatter. Okay, however, leave a major root in the ground, secure it with a band of iron and copper. Well, in the olden days, they would take iron shackles, and this pin right here was copper because it was soft. So they shoved it through, and they beat on it to make it stay together. So you were shackled this way. And then to take it off, they'd put it on and break the copper loose because it was a softer metal. That's what he's saying. We were bound to that financial system that went down. If any of you have got 9-to-5 jobs, and you've got retirement plans and all this, did you lose them?
Frank lost a lot.
Lot. It's because we were bound to it. Because of the system, you couldn't get out from underneath it. If you were putting stuff into, and I don't know how it works, but putting stuff into the retirement plans and all the stuff, 401ks and so forth, it had to do with the stock market. So when it drops, one of my best friends, he's looking at me like, Shane, he's like, I lost $60-some thousand. Just like that. He's like, this was my retirement. He's like, I ain't going to be able to retire. He works for the city. He's like, I'm going to have to keep working. I planned on retiring. This whole thing we were shackled to. We were shackled to this horse, chariot, and still are. So it says, a band of iron and copper, this is verse 12, and the herbage of the field. Let it be washed by the dew of heaven, and let its lot be together with the beasts in the grass of the earth. They will change its heart from a man, and a beast's heart will be given to it. Okay, so from there, did we go into a beast's heart given to... Do you see what came on? Do you see what came on through all of this? The riots, this thing was actually set up in Arkansas, at the Capitol.
What, New York?
Huh? No, this was set up in Arkansas. There was other stuff set up there. This was set up at the Capitol in Arkansas because they had the 10 Commandments there, so they allowed them to do the opposite.
Oh, no.
So you see our children, right? There's Baphomet, Satan. See how he points his finger down? Because he's saying what's above is below, or what's below will be above. Look at this. Look at the medical symbol in his chest, or in his stomach. This is actually linked to that Pan god at the gates of hell in Caesarea Philippi, because he was a goat. Okay. So you can see a beast's heart was given to our society. This whole thing changed at this time. The riots, all of this, we started going down. And have been, because these chariots ride. When a horse rides, a horse chariot, he just keeps riding. That's why I talk about the seals. You know, that first seal, the white horse? It rode at the cross and it's still riding. Because it's good news. Still riding, still riding. This is still riding. It's still going. And the other ones will open up. It says, they will change its heart of a man, and a beast's heart will be given to it. And 7 periods will pass over it. There's your count of the 7s. There's the 7s. The 21 asteroids of Pumble Jupiter, they're running in 7s. First the Twin Towers goes down, then 2008, the next 7, the financial or the housing market busts, and the Dow Jones drops 777 points. Jonathan Kahn teaches on this. Are you guys seeing how deep we're in this? We're there. This thing is playing right out in front of us. And the 7 periods will pass over it. The matter is decreed by the angels. 21 stars are angels in Revelations. 21 angels decreed the judgment, because when 21 asteroids pummeled Jupiter on July 16th through the 22nd, see how he foreshadowed 2016 through 2022, the last 7, the 7 in Daniel 9, he foreshadowed it the minute that hit. They pummeled on the 7th month, there's your 7s, from the 16th to the 22nd for 7 days. And on the 16th at 8:13 at night, they started pummeling. Well, at 8:13 at night, it became the next day on the Hebrew calendar, and that day was the 9th of Av. Which is, if you understand the 9th of Av, that's when the 2 witnesses brought back the bad report. And after that, it's been judgment since. The first temple went down on the 9th of Av. The second temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. The first train pulled into Auschwitz on the 9th of Av. The Spanish Inquisition happened on the 9th of Av. I mean, you can go down the list. And it's judgment. That day on the Hebrew calendar, the month of Av on the 9th, has been judgment since the 10 witnesses brought back the bad report out of the 12. So now it was pronounced by these angels, a matter of decree of the angels. This is in Daniel 4:14. The matter is decreed by the angels, and the sentence is by the holy ones, so that all living beings may know that the Supreme One rules over the kingdoms of man, giving it to whomever he wishes and appointing the lowest of men over it.
Yeah.
And all of this, can you believe this, was found by 10 words, 42 letters. Because he researched it, and now my curiosity was such that I couldn't stop. When I started, it was hours, and then it was finished, and I'm sitting there looking at this story like, you gotta be kidding me. This is unreal. So now, where did we start to unlock this? 5778 was the key, was it not, to unlock all of this prophecy? Surface temperature of the sun. I mean, all this is so obvious, right? We know 5778 is 2018 on the Gregorian calendar. This is on the Hebrew or creation calendar. The reason why this is so important, and the 222 is so important. The reason why, you guys have seen this, you've seen it in the Fibonacci sequence. This side of the golden angle was 137.50776. Our other date, 2 dates, remember? 2 dates, very significant. Which is 2016. This was the beginning of this 7 that everybody's talking about, that the church Satan has had a ball with this thing. When he's obscured this and say it's 7-year tribulation, So what's that do to everybody? Everybody's sitting around waiting for tribulation to begin. So they set their alarm clock, set it down, and go to sleep. And that's what the church has done. And Satan's laughing. He thinks this is the greatest thing. That God's believers have been so deceived. How can you be, but he puts it in this mathematical formula, the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, the golden angle, and the golden sequence. Golden sequence, golden angle, golden ratio. The three parts to it, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So on this side of the golden angle, it's 137.50, because this was a Jubilee year. 50776. There it is. And on this side, it's 222.49. Okay, so here's 222. So we're supposed to get 6 days, right? Day is like 1,000 years. So mankind gets 6,000 years. But if you take off this 222, it points to the 70th year Israel's brought back. So both dates are setting in this Fibonacci sequence. It's also setting in, this is the angle, the ratio is 1.618. Right there it is. 16, 18. He breathed it forth in this mathematical formula. So, the point I'm trying to make is 5778 is where we started, and he's going to take us back to Daniel. You guys have seen this, there's a 4-year doorway, but he's going to take us back to Daniel 2:2:2. That's the last place that is 10 words, 42 letters. So we go to 2:2:2, which we've just come right back around, and it tells you something very deep. Because it all starts here and all this wisdom builds. It says, He reveals the deep and the mysterious. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with Him. That's His conclusion in showing us. But anyways, so when I read this, 13, it says, As for you, go to your end. You will rest, then arise for your portion at the end of days. Well, that's right there at the end. So it tells 2 stories in this. Because that one just told Daniel's story. In other words, the ones on the right. Okay? That tells our story. We fed him. We visited him in prison. We try to do this righteous stuff, right? We do our best, but we're with him. Okay? That's what he's telling Daniel. Go to the end, you're going to receive your reward. Okay? So, that's in Daniel 12:13. But look at the other side. There's 2 verses. So there's only one other verse that has 8 words and 32 letters. 8 being eternity. Right? Okay? 32 letters. It's in Daniel 5:26. It says, this is the interpretation of the matter. Many counted. God has counted the years of your kingship and terminated it. Right there's where Satan goes down. That's where, you look right here, Revelations 18, or 11, it says, the 2 witnesses die. This is 11, I'll start in 14, but above that the 2 witnesses die. Okay, a great earthquake hits Israel, Jerusalem. The second woe is past. See, the third one is coming quickly. The 7th angel sounded his shofar. What's this saying? I think it's in Thessalonians. When the last shofar blast, there it is, there's the last shofar blast, the 7th angel is the last one. When you hear the last shofar blast, the dead will arise first. Well, they just did. Because the 2 witnesses went up first. Because they symbolizes, this is in Revelations 11. Talking to the 2 witnesses, guys. Remember the 2 witnesses, Revelation 11, they die. Okay? That's from 11, 3.5 days. They lay, and then the breath of God enters into them. They stand up on their feet. A great fear falls upon everyone who saw. Then I heard a voice come from the clouds from heaven saying, "Come up here." Remember, that's how he's going to come back. So he hollers out to him, "Come up here." And they went into the heavens in a cloud while their enemies watched. In that hour there was a great earthquake. That's when he put his feet on the Mount of Olives. And the tenth of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest of the people were awestruck and gave glory to God of heavens, because he just now showed up. The second woe has passed. See, the third one is coming quickly, because this is where we're tucked away now. The seventh, because he's until the wrath is past. Go into your room for but a brief moment. Remember? Isaiah 26. So that's the third woe, is this wrath that'll come upon the beast kingdom. The seventh angel sounded his shofar. There it is. There's the last one. And he says, the kingdom of this world has now become the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah, and he will rule forever. And right there is what happens here. This is the interpretation of the matter. You have been counted, weighed, right? God has counted the years of your kingship, because Satan is king of the earth right now. And when Yeshua comes and puts his feet on the Mount of Olives, he just took it away, your kingship, and terminated it.
Yay.
And if you go on reading, the 24 elders sitting on the throne, because we know that is Rosh Hashanah, and God's presence fell on their faces to worship God, saying, "We thank you, Adonai, God of heaven's armies, the one who is, the one who was, that you have taken power and begun to rule." The Christian teaching on this blows my mind, because they say from here, that was the first 3.5 years, and the next 3.5 years in the 7-year tribulation, which they've made up, the next 3.5 years the Antichrist rules. Go look it up. It comes out. It's church teaching. You go to any pastor and ask them; they will verify this. So how is that going to happen? In other words, he just terminated Satan's kingship, and it says the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our Lord and Savior, and now he's going to turn around and walk away for 3.5 years and let Satan have fun again? Ain't going to happen. It's because what happens is the Antichrist and the two witnesses are side by side for 42 months. They're side by side. Evil and good. So you see this. It says, "We thank you, Adonai, God of heaven," so you begin to rule. The goyim raged. So the nations raged. But now your rage has come. The time for the dead to be judged. There he is. And the time for rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your holy people. Rosh Hashanah is when he puts his feet on the Mount of Olives and takes control of the earth. And 10 days later, 10, is Yom Kippur. That's what this statement stands for. Now is the time to judge the dead, and the time to reward your servants. Because now, it's whether you're on the right or left. Because now you're standing before the throne of God, and he's on the mercy seat, and he's going to judge. Once you see this, you'll see how this will play out. You're going to see how this will all play out. We're in it. We're in it. We're in it. We're in it. And I've gone over a little bit, but I've been purchasing extra time. So just in case I did, I don't take advantage of these guys, which they are so sweet. But
So shouldn't we be seeing the two witnesses pretty soon?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we passed from coming out of the sevens, and now that 42 months is going to set in here somewhere. Because we know 2028 is the 80 in strength. Because 2018 is the 70. But he says 80 in strength, so he puts a 2028 date on this on the outside. So we don't know. Where's he going to fit this thing in? But we do know one thing. If this happened on Rosh Hashanah and it's been going on for 42 months, all you got to do is back up. If you know the festivals of God and ain't celebrating Christmas and the Easter Bunny, you're going to see this. Because but your eyes are going to be, this is what the whore of Babylon has done to us, guys. It's stupid. You know, and I did it too. I was in Catholicism, and I loved eating that little chocolate bunny. That was great as a kid. But now that my eyes are open, I'm looking back saying, you got to forgive me, because I was really blinded back then. But, so I don't get too far off base. Well, the Lord's like, "Would you just shut up?" And but anyways, what was your question?
You were going to the back up from the 42 months.
Oh, 42 months. 42 months. We know Rosh Hashanah is when he puts his feet on the Mount of Olives, so we're going to know when the Antichrist and the two witnesses show up, because we know the festivals. So Rosh Hashanah, back up 1, 2, 3, back to Rosh Hashanah, but they did for 42 months, so 3.5 years. You go 6 months, and 6 months is Passover. They actually set 6 months apart. The spring feasts and the fall feasts. So he's going to show up on Passover. And why wouldn't he? When did our Messiah show up in his first coming? It's all linked to the springtime and the Passover.
Like the Antichrist and the two witnesses are gonna show up on Passover?
But get this. Now you got to go in deeper and read. Because it doesn't say he will make his appearance for 42 months. It says he will rule. And then it makes another statement that he will be revealed. So these two times can actually be separated. So you really got to know all the puzzle pieces. We're going to teach on that again because I'm way over. And but now you see it. Now you see it. You see the timeline. And now from the teachings here on out, we're going to start going into different things. And you're going to see the bits and pieces. You're going to see the pieces. And you got the big one. And just keep reviewing these videos because you'll see that. And then, because these two were really important. But knowing that, let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all that you do for us. We thank you for opening up our eyes. We thank you for bringing your children into this classroom, including me, to teach us the things that are upon us. I asked in 2011, Lord, you know that date, March 10th, 2011, I asked for 3 things. I asked to see what was coming, I asked for the truth, and I asked to keep Satan out of it. And wow, you have been so faithful in this, so faithful to show this. And now I know it's got to be passed on to others. Open their eyes like you did mine. Open their eyes up and open their hearts up to you. So that you could tell others. Wake your children up. We pray this. We thank you for the Messiah. We thank you for your Son and all that he has done for us and the sacrifice that he has made. And we thank in his holy name, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.